Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing. As always, your host here, Matt Sahab, still coming in hot from Toronto. Folks, we are recording on Tuesday, April 29th. This episode will air on Cinco de Mayo, Monday the 5th. Yesterday, in my beautiful country, we had the elections, and the Liberals won again. Mark Carney, I guess he wasn't even really in, but he was sort of in. It's going to be a shit show. There's going to be a hell of a lot more pain in Canada. And we'll see how that all works out. But I wish things would have gone differently with C'est la vie. And again, I am one of, 44 million people. So I can't do much. But again, this isn't a politics show. This is a crypto show. And today, we have the one and only Raullen Chai on the show today, co-founder and CEO of IoTeX, who's absolutely blowing up right now, a modular Web3 infra platform connecting smart devices and real-world data to blockchains. Folks, this is DePIN 101, and I can't wait to get into this. Raullen is an expert cryptographer, privacy and data security expert who previously held positions at Google, Uber, and Oracle. At Google, he led security initiatives for the company's technical infrastructure and was the founding engineer of Google Cloud Load Balancer. Wow. He holds a Ph.D. from the University of Waterloo, which we will get into, where his research focused on designing and analyzing lightweight ciphers and IoT authentication protocols. Raullen, welcome to the show, my friend. Pumped to have you on. And what a background you have. I'm so jealous. How is it like in lovely California?
Yeah, thanks for having me here, man. Super glad. Yeah, California. So we're having a really good weather, as you guys can see in my background, like a really sunny day today. Feels good about it.
I love it. Very, very jealous. Although it is a nice day in Toronto. It is a nice rare day. Let's start with Waterloo. Just for a couple of we've had a bunch of Waterloo grads on the show, but for the listeners at home who aren't familiar with Waterloo, it's a school about 2 hours, hour and a half outside of Toronto. And it produces brilliant founders, devs, C-suite execs, you name it. Like, to get into Waterloo, you need to be smart as fuck, pardon my French. And then through Waterloo, it has one of the best co-op programs in, I think, almost the whole world, where like for a whole term or 2 terms, you're not just learning nonsense in school, you're literally working for world-class firms. And you just learn so much. And there's a reason why so many incredible founders have come out of Waterloo University. But what pisses me off, Raullen, is, and it's not, you pissed me off, but it's people like you who are absolutely brilliant, who create multi-million, if not multi-billion-dollar businesses, and there's no incentives for you guys to stay in Canada. Why would you set up shop in Toronto? Why would you set up shop in Kitchener-Waterloo? It makes no sense. You're going to go to California, you're going to be in the tech hub, or you're going to go to Texas and Florida, pay less taxes. What are your thoughts, and how wild is it that so many brilliant men and women have come out of Waterloo, but no one ever stays in Canada?
Yeah, I think the most important reason is like the weather, right? So we had a too long winter. I was just kidding. Yeah,
terrible.
I was just kidding. Yeah, but like I think the real truth is, so there is no much capital, right? So in Waterloo, so that's kind of like what you need to start a company. So in Silicon Valley, it feels very different, right? So there are a lot of founders, a lot of capital, VCs, hedge funds. So you can get in like an instant feedback from talking with people. That helps you kind of like rapidly iterate your company from ideation to a product launch, to try a few things, to raise another round of capital and grow. I feel like this sort of like a iteration is too slow in Waterloo. I try to talk with some people over there, but like a very few people, also like investors here in Canada, right? No offense. I feel like they are more conservative compared to the people who are on the West Coast.
Yeah, well said there. It does suck. And again, this was hopefully one of the things that perhaps the Conservative Party would have changed. But the exodus of talent from Canada to other countries, more specifically USA, is absolutely wild. And my apologies for the siren in the background, if the listeners can hear that. But let's jump into your past here. Google, Uber, Oracle, 3 world-class companies, especially while at Google and Uber during the absolute heyday. Do you have any sort of standout stories, Raullen, or things in particular that you could tell to the listeners of the Crypto News Pod at this showcase, like how much of a grind it was and how incredible it was working for those companies and building incredible things like the Google Cloud Load Balancer?
No, actually, I got into crypto really early when I was doing my Ph.D. in Waterloo, right? Because my major was cryptography. Actually, I was working on something called lightweight cryptography. Basically, we want to make like a small devices, like the IoT devices, like a secure enough. So we have to tailor fit like a very heavy compute type of cryptography into something like a really lightweight. So that's where I got into like a Bitcoin really early when their white paper came out around the year 2008 or 2009, right? So I was like a bunch of like a first group of readers actually who's getting into those papers and trying to find the flaw in their design, but we didn't, right? That's where the moment I fall in love with crypto really early. But when I was graduating in the year of 2012, so there's no crypto as an industry, right? Coinbase is like a 3-people company at that time, just get started. That's why Oracle actually gave me an offer first, and then Google next. Says you should come to the Bay Area. You should like start your career here. I said okay. So Google is like sounds like a dream company. So I came here, stayed at Google for 5 years, actually leading team for a few cloud product access. Still makes Google like $1 million per year. Google is like a very fun company to work with for the first few years, maybe 2-3 years. It had a lot of smart people inside, a lot of very fancy technology inside. But as a big company, right? So after like 3-4 years, you stay there, you feel like it's kind of bored. No matter what you do, like your boss or like your peers always have a pushback for like various reasons, not technical reasons, but some political reasons, right? So something non-technical. So that's a moment I feel like, okay, this is such a dream company. I thought I would be there forever in my life, right?
Yeah.
But just after 3-4 years, I feel like I should try something else. So then Uber gave me an offer, very high title, very high salary at their hyper growth stage. Say, okay, well, Raullen, you should come here, join us, kind of leading the security initiative for Uber, because at the very beginning, Uber basic grows massively. They store all the users, for example, like user data in plain text on the AWS cloud, right? So that's a moment they need to bring in someone to really kind of re-architect the entire process, system, and products for their security practice. So that's where I got into Uber at the hyper growth stage, leading team for a lot of like auth kind of work. Every time you log into your Uber app, that's basically me, my system, my team behind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, stayed there for 2 years, super happy. There are a bunch of young people, very talented young people. I love them too. But like the founder CEO gets just kicked out, right? So during that years, and they have like a new CEO. Of course, he's doing a good job so far. But that's a moment I feel like Uber is kind of losing its moment as a startup company. At the same time, crypto is kind of getting a lot of like more attention around the year like 2006, 2007, right? So if you remember, that's kind of like the ICO kind of started during those years, and more people and capital gets into crypto. That's a moment I told myself, okay, Raullen, maybe you should try something you have always loved for many years, right? Now is the time. So that's the beginning of the journey of IoTeX.
I love that. Well said there. So I assume, and I hate putting words in the mouth of my guest, but Uber is like DePIN. Like Uber's pretty much DePIN at the end of the day. So I feel like being at Uber during the hypergrowth stage and seeing the power of DePIN, that must have given you a couple aha, like boom, 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 light bulb moments for building IoTeX. Perhaps I'm way wrong there, but that must have had some impact on the founding story of IoTeX, right?
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. If you think about like Bitcoin or Ethereum as a decentralized network versus Uber as kind of centralized platform, but still try to matchmaking like riders and drivers together, right? So it's like the biggest taxi company without a car, but has millions like cars and drivers. So that's kind of like where the DePIN spirits, I think, got started in my heart. Of course, during that years, we call those sharing economy. So Uber is just one example. So there was like an Airbnb that pretty hot. And there are some other smaller kind of companies like Somtech here in San Francisco, which are very focused on like the handyman yoga teacher type of like a sharing economy, are very, very hot. But during that time, because this decentralized protocol or decentralized network, so technically we're not there yet. So everything is kind of centralized. So Uber runs as a centralized platform. There are a lot of inefficiency, a lot of things we can work on. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So what was the moment you decided to leave Uber and start this? Like walk into that whole story.
Yeah. So that's actually like the year end of like 2017. At that time, I got another offer from Zoox, which is like a kind of pop star type of like an autonomous car company here in the Valley, right? So they're doing like a very cool car, autonomous car. They got me an offer. But still, I thought like I should do something myself. I really love this idea, like building a decentralized team, a decentralized network to orchestrate all the devices like cars, like sensor networks, like your phone, computer, everything in the world, right? So that's a giant idea. I don't care too much about if I can really make it, but I have to give it a try. That's the moment, I have two other co-founders also join me. One is very early, like a Facebook engineer. He has been working with Mark Zuckerberg in the early days. And another co-founder is actually from VC background. So we started the IoTeX in the year of 2017.
Wow.
And we're lucky enough, like the market was good. It was super good. So in the year of like 2018, like February-ish, so we raised like $20 million, right? So that's kind of, we built up the company, we grew the team, we started to like build the product. That was
huge back then. Like now 20 mil raises grow on trees, but 2017, 2018, that's wild.
Yeah. Given the inflation, right? This many years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so I think IoTeX entirely. So we got started at that point, right? So and we become like a very quickly got listed on Binance on the same year, 2018. I remember that was like a May, and we had like a lot of investment interest and a lot of talents actually come to us. Says, okay, Raullen, I want to build this like a giant machine, so decentralized network with you. So that's everything, kind of gets started.
Wow. And then it just happened just like that. Walk me through what exactly IoTeX is, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. I can't wait to get into all of the real world AI inputs, which is, again, the fact that you guys had this vision back in the day. And then now, like, I mean, DePIN is one of the most trendy sort of subsectors and niches of crypto. But walk me through exactly what you guys do. Give us the elevator pitch, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so IoTeX is actually like the infra for decentralized, like infra networks, right? For DePIN, basically. So we do think, also our thesis is like a DePIN is very like a fragmented market. There will be so many like a DePINs in specific verticals, like the RTK, maybe that word you never heard of. It's a very small niche, but there's a market over there. Or maybe like a drone taking pictures from like a 300 meters above the ground, right? So those niche markets, they will have their own kind of demand. But we want to provide a unified infrastructure actually for the developers, for the DePIN companies, so they can quickly go to the market. They can serve their customer or demand without concerning about too much about this decentralized layer, like the tech, the scalability, the security, the sensor resistance, right? So they don't have to care about this layer at all. So and by doing this, so each kind of DePIN companies with like a very small raise from VC, so they can quickly go to market and they can produce revenue, so their token will fly and entire DePIN sector will bloom. So that's our theory.
I got it. Okay, very interesting. Now, DePIN as a whole here, and I want to take a bit of I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but I do want to play devil's advocate here, because this is when my normie friends ask me about, trendy areas of crypto, Raullen, I often talk to them about DePIN, and I tell them about mobile and the crazy number of signups that they have, and how they're taking market share from the AT&Ts and the Virgins or whoever, but the huge telecell companies of the United States and the world. I talked to them about Demo, which I believe you guys have a partner with. I talked about all the incredible companies in the space.
That's right.
And why it makes so much sense, where you're pretty much just letting, in the old days, it was just, we're going to take from you and we're not going to give you anything back. Now it's, we're going to take something for you and transparently give you a little kickback. And people want that. People like that, especially post-COVID, after, everyone was getting free checks from the gov. There's sort of this new, like, oh, get rich quick and just like, I need to be incentivized for everything motive. Perhaps, we're stretching a little far here, but I think you know what I mean. With that being said, what do you say to people who are like, oh, DePIN's a sham, DePIN's a scam, DePIN's fugazi? Like, because I'm sure you must get that. And I'm sure when you guys are asked about it, obviously you guys are the infra play for all of DePIN, but for the DePIN companies as a whole, how do you back them up? How do you sort of show to potential investors or naysayers or devil's advocates that DePIN is here to stay and it will be a huge, multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar industry?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? Because we're like an infra provider, so we work with a lot of DePIN projects, like the one you mentioned, Demo, GeoDNet, even HiMap or Helium to a certain degree, right? So we work with them, we're friends with them, and also we do some investment into like an early stage similar DePIN project. So definitely like we have a lot of interactions with DePIN founders. So there are like some potential challenges here, to be honest, for DePIN to really grow into like a big sector. I think the challenge here is like in crypto and all the capitals, they're like a super rush. They want like a 10x next day, right? So they're super rush. So that's why like a lot of, if you see like in crypto, a lot of like a projects, they are tailor-fit or like a please to those kind of rush capitals. They are just doing something like a super short term, pump up the token price, selling devices, making money, and then kind of like a pump up the token price, for example, right? So those are like a super short term like behaviors or strategies as a DePIN project you can play. But if you're doing that too much, as we did see in the past year, so people get hurt because I purchased a device for $500 because I think I'm going to like pay it off in 3 months or 6 months. Then I start to have like a passive income. Everybody loves this story and idea. But if the project is not making like a real move or like into serve like a real demand, right? Then that's kind of hurting those people who purchase the device upfront. Then next project who are selling like the same like are the different sort of devices, they have a harder time to do that. I feel like that's kind of things for DePIN. But like the real challenges here, as we saw so far, is some DePIN projects. So they are like in a very small vertical, which have like a very small TAM, but they do have the know-how into, how to serve like those customers, how to serve, like those demands and making revenue and then using the revenue to buy back the token. The token will have like a stable growth. I think Helium and GeoDNet, they are doing like a really good job on that. So IoTeX, so we're also looking into this project. We also have like a solid revenue here. So that's why like I feel like the first two waves of crypto are like really explosive, right? So we're giving like a 10x of the Bitcoin price within 6 months or so. But after this, I feel like everything will be kind of slow down, but still kind of grow, even for big TC and other crypto. So DePIN is more like a long-term kind of sector, which will also share its characteristics. It will grow. I don't know, like maybe 20%, 50% per year, but definitely not like a 10x overnight.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Well, yeah, no, it makes sense because in order for this to grow, like you need users, right? You need people to come on board, whereas other areas of crypto can be artificially pumped and you can have those 10 baggers, in a span of days or weeks.
That's very true.
Yeah, much different. One thing that I love that you guys do, I love many things you guys do, but one thing in particular, the three main sort of pillars, you and the team are focused on enabling smart cities, decentralized robotics, and autonomous infrastructure. I feel like these three things will be very, very huge and paramount to the sort of next frontier of our world. Last episode we had was Michael Moe, the CEO and founder of Cooler, a publicly traded company. They have, Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They've adopted the Michael Saylor strategy. They are big into two of those three things minus the enabling smart cities. But he had a big take on robotics, and he was like, there is a 0% chance that robots will not be in most people's homes and most people's businesses over the next 10 years. Will it be some 6-foot robot that could potentially be more powerful than us and scare us? No, it'll probably be a smaller robot, but there's a 0% chance that robots will not be absolutely everywhere. You guys are doing this, plus adding that extra piece of sauce and decentralized autonomous infrastructure that goes into everything, and smart cities, which I feel like people are getting tired of the big cities, all the nonsense, the homeless. We could go down the list of all the issues, and those smart cities where it's a smaller cohort of people who are just doing it all themselves. There's three different areas. We could start with the smart cities, but why are you guys so bullish, and why are you putting so much effort into these three pillars?
Yeah, that's right. So I think robots actually come into our life, come to our house, maybe within the next 2-3 years. That's what I got from talking with a lot of like a top-notch AI researchers, investors, and companies in the world, right? They will come as soon as we thought. So they will be like a very clumsy at the very beginning, right? So they'll be very slow, very clumsy, but give it like, 6 months, 12 months. It's sort of like your Tesla car at the very beginning, the FSD sucks, right? People complain. People just joke about Elon Musk, right? But after, 1 to 2 years, everything gets so smooth. I feel like the robots will definitely take in the same trajectory here. It's coming to our life. So it's definitely coming. So interestingly, right? So because my Uber experience, so we're thinking about something very, very similar. So we feel like the next kind of Uber like kind of opportunity is emerging right now because we do need a decentralized platform, sort of like a Uber in the middle, connecting like a robots and the people, right? You have like a robots here. So maybe you don't own the robots, right? Maybe you just, I don't know, like lease a robot, right? So you pay like a few $100. It just goes to your home, do all the house workings for you and, cook for you, serving for you and get payments and getting new skills. So we do feel like there is sort of like a Uber-like system that should be like in between the robots and the people. That's where, we are kind of like taking some bets, doing some experiment starting from last year. So we did like an AI agent. If you look at our tweet, it's called Bino agent. So this agent is not just a simple agent. It just consumes all the data. So we have collected from various DePIN networks, such as DEMO, such as environment blocks, right? Such as a ROM. So that's why this agent is Bino agent, although it's a software right now, but it can be installed into a robot that will have a physical body one day. But this agent,
that's insane,
right? So this agent knows a lot of things in the real world and real time, right? So compared to open ChatGPT, sort of like a large language model, which mostly kind of derives its knowledge from the internet kind of open data, the web data. So our agent actually knows a little bit more about the real world, what is going on here and there.
Jeez, dude, that's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on a roll. We got to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, and we're going to keep buzzing. Huge shout out to Prime XBT. longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50 to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with Raullen. Mate, I want to go back to the sentient AI agents that you talked about, the self-learning infrastructure and the physical aspect. Why is the average Joe and Josephine, why is physical AI not on their radar? And I'll throw a little caveat into that. The amount of friends, I was with a bunch of friends last week and we were talking about AI. These are smart friends of mine and they're not even using AI. They're like, oh, sometimes I use ChatGPT. I'm like, how the hell do you not, how are you not messing around with Replit and Lovable and ChatGPT and Grok and Perplexity and all of them? The amount of really smart people that aren't using them every day, that's wild. And then the people who are, there's still not this holy crap, robots are going to be here. When people think of AI, they just think of literally LLMs for the most part. But why isn't it on the radar of more people about actual sentient physical AI?
That's because I think there's a famous saying says the future is here. It's not just evenly distributed to everybody, right? That means a future maybe to you and to me, not to everybody. So this is very true. Actually, I have a lot of Google friends. So there's very smart people, very techy and intelligent people, and they don't even know BTC, right? So they don't even know blockchain or crypto or decentralized networks.
Good point. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. But eventually, I think they will, right? So once they see the robots actually working at your home, serving beers, at the party, I think that's a moment your friends will kind of start to believe into the AI and the robotic AI.
Wild. Okay, let's go back to the enabling sentient AI agents. How far away are we from that? This is something that you and the team are working on as well. And again, the IoTeX platform is the infra layer that will power all of this. But how far away are we? Are we going to have agents soon enough where I can literally be I was going to say, help me prep for the show with you, but that's a bad example because I can already have that. But where I could literally be actually go and execute actionable items within the IoTeX platform. How far away are we from legit AI agents that are sentient, that can actually work magic and do all of our everyday tasks?
So roughly speaking, right? So agent is actually composed of three things. So one is the underlying large language model. So this is a brain of the agent. I feel the brain is almost a very smart. If you see a DeepSeek R1,
yeah,
ChatGPT 04 or 4.5, those are very smart, intelligent kind of brain for the agent. We use them. And two is a memory, right? So for the memory, that means the agent has to remember the context, the knowledge it has been once talked about or discovered, right? So for the future reasoning. And the three is what we're working on. It's more a kind of, access or retrieve the real world information in real time. So you can fit into the brain, can fit into memory. So you have a better way to understand what is going on out there. Because they're actually this brain is sitting in the virtual network, right? It doesn't connect to the real world. So it doesn't know what to do. But once we connect them with a proper data sources, for example, you can ask our agent, so how's the weather or maybe how's the environmental condition in Austin, Texas, right? So this will be turning into a query, and this query actually sends to thousands of sensors deployed in the Austin, Texas area IoTeX network, retrieves the data in real time, and it gets back to the large language model, and then kind of producing the answer from there. So this is just one example, right? But if you see, we can aggregate more and more data resources from the real world using sensors, devices, machines, maybe on your car, on your watch. Then this model will become, an agent will become more and more powerful.
Well said there. I want to go back to smart cities because we barely discussed that. Why are you so bullish on smart cities? Why do you love smart cities so much?
Because eventually every city will be smart, right? In the future. It's actually coming. I feel in Asian cities, so this is pretty the case. So we're kind of lagging behind here in North America. But if you go to Singapore or Dubai or some cities in China, you can pretty see everything is so digitalized, right? So they have right. So they have the roadside unit basically sensing the car, kind of passing by, charge them and taking pictures, right? So if they're overspeed, So those things are actually already happening in a lot of Asian cities. And I feel like given like the AI, right? Because in the future, if you think about the major labor force, it will not be human being, right? So you and me, so we're maybe just like sitting on the beach all day doing nothing, right? While like the AI robots does all the work, maybe all majority of the work for all the human being. So it's naturally to think about all the city operation in the future will be done by machines, by robots, right? So that's the moment where smart city becomes into reality.
Wow. Inevitably, SF is probably going to be the first smart city in North America, right?
I hope
It
so.
would only make sense. Yeah.
I
mean,
don't
of
know.
course. Yeah.
I don't
It
know,
only
right?
makes sense.
So we have like a few kind of DePIN deployers. So they want to try all this idea, right? So if they say, oh, I can maybe combine 10 different sort of like a DePIN devices deploying a very small town in the middle of nowhere, maybe, can we start the experiment of a sort of like a DePIN powered smart city in that regards? I think that's kind of like an ongoing experiment.
Interesting. All the DePIN providers plus the infra play, i.e. you guys, the infra provider, excuse me, get together, throw up a city in the middle of the desert in Zona, Texas, Cali, wherever, start from scratch as a little sort of, POC, a proof of concept, see if it works, go from there.
That's right? So you can use like a solar panel, harvest like the energy from the sun, power like a maybe 5G base station serving local kind of telecommunication, right? So you can use like some teleport has been shut down, but you can use some sort of like a Uber-like services, to just travel yourself here or there, right? So that's kind of like the utopia, like a deep utopia, we're all thinking about. I think we're getting there no matter what.
So cool. Maybe we are a little tight for time. A couple more questions and we will wrap up. And this has been great. I got a lot of homework to do, man. You're making my head spin in the best way possible. How can people get involved with IoTeX? What news do you guys have popping off over the next couple of weeks, months? Give us the lowdown on what's happening with you guys and again, and how people can get involved, whether it's devs, whether it's users, whether it's DePIN providers. Give us everything you got.
Yeah, so I think mostly like we are very active on Twitter. So our handle is IoTeX_IO. My personal handle is RAULLEN. That's my first name. So that's where you can get in touch with me and my team. So we will be pretty responsive. If you're like a builder, if you're like an investor, if you're like a people who's really passionate about what we're doing. So in terms of like the big things like the team has been working on, right? So we're kind of like reshaping like our kind of like infrastructure to serving more like AI needs, as we can see. Like you said, we have some robotics like companies coming to us saying, oh, we want some training data for our robotics, right? Can you guys help to collecting from outsourcing those data, to human laborers, right? To getting those data. We have some other company coming to us says, okay, so we have this 100 robots or like autonomous vehicles. Can your platform actually serving those things, right? Become like a command center for those robots. So we're doing like a bunch of POCs, with those companies, some governments as well. Yeah.
Gotcha. And man, your Twitter handle, I don't know too. I've met a couple of Raulens. It's not the most popular name, at least in North America. But you must have been damn early to the Twitter party to snag that. That's pretty sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is like my made-up name, right? Because I don't want like use the same name with other people.
Gotcha.
I want to be unique.
Gotcha.
Same as IoTeX. We want IoTeX to be unique.
Got you. Okay. I love it. I was going to say that'd be pretty awesome. But either way, it's sick that you got the first name locked and loaded. Mate, really appreciate this. Any news popping off for the next couple? Again, your episode's going to air on May the 5th on Cinco de Mayo. Any news popping off before then, after then?
Yeah. So we will have like a small like a rebrand in about like 1 to 2 months from now. And we will have like some major product launch at that time. So just stay tuned and you should be surprised.
Amazing. Love it. Folks, what an episode with Raullen Chai, co-founder and CEO of IoTeX. What an episode. And I don't know about you guys, but he made my head spin. We got a lot to learn here, guys. A big deep dive into IoTeX, why physical AI changes the game, the DePIN strategy, smart cities, and for the people, you name it, we touch it. Huge shout out to Raullen and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking of the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And back to the listeners, thanks for tuning in. As always, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Thanks for tuning, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.